Welcome to Linden Loom. Hi, my name is Cher. Thanks so much for stopping by the channel. If you're new here, I am a knitter, occasional weaver, spinner, dyer, located currently in Eastern North Carolina. I am in the process with my husband of relocating to South Carolina, where we will be starting a fiber processing mill. So little bits of that coming up as we get the farm started. We're also going to raise some sheep, and so you'll have lots of fibery farm adventures down the road if you stick with us. Today is really a knitting podcast update, fairly traditional style. I have 4 finished objects, 3 main whips that I'll talk a little bit about, and 1 acquisition. So it'll probably be a relatively short one, so grab a cuppa. If I'm transparent, this is actually ice water. I don't know, despite having had a foot of snow in Eastern North Carolina this weekend and spending most of yesterday shoveling, which only unburied the driveway, and our heat pump is, of course, not working worth anything, so we've been heating with the propane. I've had it off for a couple hours, and I went and put on this sweater, and I am so warm. So actually, I should talk about, because I always forget what I'm wearing. This is the Móinéar jumper by Ailbíona McLochlainn. I'll put some photos in here as well. I knit this with Woolly Mammoth Fiber Co. Natural Decay. If you're new to the channel, you haven't heard me gush on about this yarn. If you're not new, you know I gush readily. I absolutely do just love this. All of the main color is pearlescent. And I am actually not remembering, glitter crackling is the contrast color. So I had some yarn left over from this, and I'm contemplating I bought some additional yarn in similar colors, and I'm contemplating some sort of striping thing. I'm trying to remember, I might have modified the sleeve on this pattern because I have this sort of bell sleeve. It might have been in the way it was in the pattern. I'm thinking it probably was that way, but I just love the accented on the ribbing and the collar. So beautiful color work. It is a color work pattern that you have to definitely follow the chart because, of course, it's not regular, but I just love it. I did notice today the ends are all woven in, but apparently I was not sure about when I cast it off because I left them long, so I do need to go in and snip those off. But I didn't wear it a lot because I finished it, I think, in the early part of the spring. So yeah, loving that. So anyway, broke that out for you all today. So let's get started with finished objects. I guess first I'll just hit the one that's off the actual hook today. This is just a really simple crochet coaster. I made it with Crafter's Secret, which I think is the Hobby Lobby brand cotton yarn, and the colorway, grab the glasses. I tried to do that without it, and it's not successful. Colorway is 116 classic print. We use these we do pour over coffee, so we have the carafe and then like a thermos that we put it in to keep it warm after. And I had made some in a lighter shade, of course, coffee drips. And I was like, you know what, I need to wash those, but I had some extra. I'm not a huge crocheter, but every now and then I like to dabble a little bit. So anyway, that was mine, and I've got a smaller one that I'll do for the thermos and have a set. So just nice to pick up that every now and then and do something a little different. I did follow, I believe it's a Tony Lipsey tutorial for crochet coaster, and I think she's got one for placemats too, so I will link them below. I try to put pretty thorough show notes in, so just about everything I talk about is in the show notes. As we get the website up for the farm and mill, I will try to also transition it to there so it's easy to access. So, and I do put almost all of my projects, that one excluded because I just picked it up this morning, on Ravelry, and I do keep detailed project notes there, so that is a secondary resource for you. And you can always email me if you have any questions or I forget to put anything in one of those places. So, perfect. All right, so one of my kind of intentions, as I'm not a big planner or goal setter, but one of my intentions for 2026 was to, I had a lot of sock whips. I had participated with Natalie's Love and Stitches membership in her summer term last year, which I thoroughly enjoyed and hope to do again this year. And she had done a number of kind of like a sock heel tutorial exploration. So I had done a number of sock heels, and I had some of them I had knit from tubes, some of them I had just, you know, cast on enough to get the heel done. Anyway, I had all these pieces and parts. So I have the intention in 2026, and I also need a lot more hand knit socks. I'm just finding, since I'm not working in a traditional setting anymore, that I absolutely adore my hand knit socks. So anyway, I thought, well, you know, two birds, one stone, so to speak. So I decided that I would do 30 minutes a day on sock knitting. And so for the month of January, I got 3 pairs completed. First pair, gosh, this is not in order because I have my sock blockers on. So first pair I did here. And these were the Sock Week colorway from Heather Jane of So Happy Jane. And this is the Sock Week 2025. I think it's called Huckleberry Sundae. I don't know why I don't have the actual, you know, here I do. Here's the ball band. And yeah, joyful sock set, 75% superwash merino, 25% recycled nylon. I just remember that was the Huckleberry. So it's I still have a lot because it's shorties. I still have a lot of the main color. And then these were the 2 minis. And what I followed for this is she actually on her website, sohappyjane.com, had a recipe for socks that had this really neat slip stitch stripe on it. So I actually just followed that loosely to get this pattern. So I'm really happy about that. I'm happy to have them blocked, and now that I've shown them to you, I can add them to my actual wardrobe. So that was pair 1, and all the details of how I did those socks with kind of my own vanilla sock recipe and the reference to the website pattern are in the Ravelry project page. These on the sock blocker. I hope the lighting's okay. I've been really trying to work on it, but with the snow, which is still abundant, it's really bright, so I've kind of tried to moderate that a little bit. All right, for pair 2, which actually may have been the first pair off the needles, this came from a sock tube. I'd actually originally done a 60-stitch sock tube on my Erlbacher Gerhardt Speedster sock machine, and I had knit a pair of shorty socks for my mom out of it, and I had some left over. So these are real short. But what I did with these was I took the tube and split it in half, And I did a shadow wrap heel. So we had a guest spot in the membership from Denise of Earth Tones Girl. And she did this, and I've done the shadow wrap heel for, oh my gosh, at least 8 years before it was ever really popular. And I actually use a tutorial by the Chili Dog. But Denise does a great job with that and talking about it. So anyway, so you broke that out just really to give myself something to do for the heel clinic. So I'm really pleased with how they turn out. You do have to graft a little bit more, but I do think I like the fit. It'll be interesting to see. I don't have any. I've got another one that's a whip that is a true afterthought heel. So it's interesting to see the difference in the two. For me, the shadow wrap heel fits really nice. I do usually increase a little bit, and in this case I could. I don't know if I did any plain rounds or not, but you can certainly do that to add a little bit of depth to the heel. And then I had some Marigold dye that I did for the cuff and toe. So this yarn is Super Garn Active, and I keep putting my glasses down, sorry about that. I think they're glaring, so I'm trying to take them on and off. In the color 3360. So I picked this up at CSM Supplies. I actually really like it as a sock yarn. It's quite durable. It's on par with Regia or oh gosh, who's the other big Yorkshire Spinners? And the kind of the mainstream sock yarns, I think, but it's very, very well priced. This I think was a ball, but I do have some cones of sock yarn for the machine that is this brand that was really affordable and I like using. So that was pair number 2. And the third pair, this was a Sock Week. I think this was the 2022 Sock Week colorway. Was by Ruby and Roses. And it's called Castle by Day. I hope that's focusing. I can't quite see it. And this one I took a little, this was also a sock. This was the Strong Heel, which is the pattern from the Vanilla is the New Black. I'll take this off and show it to you a little bit better. And so what I did on these is I am experimenting on my sock machine to have a larger cuff so I can have taller socks for boots. And so the recipe for this that I used is in the Ravelry project page. So I started off with a hung hem on my sock machine, and then I knit down in a series of different tensions, tightening up to get to the ankle, and then took it off the machine onto waste yarn. So I did that twice, right? And then hand knit the heel using the Vanilla is the New Black cuff down pattern. And then I knit the foot by hand and did the contrast toe. So the yarn for this is the leftover main color. And then these were the 2 minis. So I have quite a bit left. Should just put them on my head and save us all the pain. I have 12 grams of the main color left, which kind of makes sense because these are quite tall. And 14 grams of the pink and 15 grams of the white. They must have been 20 grams. I did not measure them before I got started. These are interesting. There's something different about the tension in the legs, which makes no sense to me. May have just been, I don't know. don't know if I did something different on the machine. That's possible. And they look a little different in like the width. So it'd be interesting to see, but for me, they're fine. You can tell that like one of them just looks a little bigger than the other. I don't know. And then interestingly, how this one pooled quite a bit. I mean, of course, hand-dyed yarn's going to do that and not this one, but fascinating, yeah? So let me show you this heel a little bit. It was interesting. I have to say, when we did the sock clinic and I did the first heel, that is why this one sat so long as a whip, because I had like zero interest in doing it again. For me, I knit socks kind of in my own recipe, plain vanilla, because I don't want to pay attention to a pattern. So I always do a cast on with a Turkish heel, or Turkish cast on for the toe. Excuse me, I knit toe up typically. And then I do the foot, shadow wrap heel, and then I do whatever I'm going to do on the leg. I'll, alternate the ribbing or whatever, but I don't do anything fancy. I do have a couple of Nancy Wheeler's patterns, because just to maybe add some interest with, columns or rows or something. So anyway, this heel is quite interesting. So I'm going to do it like that. Maybe it helps. So you have this, I don't know if that's a gusset. You're doing a series of increases. And then the bottom is where the contrast comes in, which is kind of interesting. I think it might be a little bit like Andrea Mowry's Bear Paw, now that I think about it. I didn't finish that one either, so it might be a thing. Anyway, so and it fits pretty nice. I think this is going to be a real interesting check for boot socks. But the second one I just did not want to do. For me, it was more complicated, but I kind of was like, all right, let's just get on with it. And actually, the other one went fine. So maybe it was just that it was new. Maybe it was just I didn't feel like knitting socks that week. I don't know. So this was the second one. I think it is memorizable. I still had to look at the pattern, but not once I kind of like, oh, okay, I get it now. So I think if I were to do a pair again, what I might try is, she also has a DK weight recipe or pattern. I might try it on DK socks, because I think that would go a little bit faster. It's kind of like heel flap and gusset to me. It just seems like a lot of extra work, where the shadow wrap heel is just boom and done. All in what you get used to, I'm sure. But anyway, so I am super happy to have 3 pairs of socks off the needles with my 30 minutes a day of sock knitting. So I've got one more I'll show you in the whips, and then I've got a DK kind of bed sock, slipper sock, and then a pair, and then one more ankle socks then I'll have all my sock whips will be caught up, which will be really nice. And then I want to keep working on the socks either through my sock machine or doing some tube socks or some other patterns kind of through the rest of the year. So anyway, I think that's a pretty successful finish for January FOs. Works in progress. So just to end the sock parade, here's the sock tube that I'm currently working on. So I've knit this again on my Erlbacher Gerhardt Speedster sock machine. I had waste yarn like this at both ends. I've taken it off the top end and knit a 3x1 cuff. And I have, make sure this is focusing, sorry about the glasses again, taken off the bottom end, and I'm starting the toe. And then I will split it where the waste yarn is in the middle there, the yellow, and I will knit a cuff here and a toe here, obviously. So what I did on this one, I unraveled these first 3 after the waste yarn. I did the cuff, the first 3 in 3x1 rib, and then I did 1 round of the solid pink, and then I bound it off. My bind off doesn't look pretty there because these are not been blocked. But I have a literally just, that is the worst chore for me on sock knitting, is binding off the cuff. And I've been doing it with a crochet hook, which is so much faster. And when you wear it, like it's you don't notice it. But so it's not for everybody, but for me, it works fine. It kind of just gives it a little flair to it. Yeah, I guess it would make a case for cuff down socks, which I just has never made a lot of sense to me. Although, I mean, I certainly have done some. I just like the predictability of it. But honestly, with the shadow wrap heel, it's always consistent. So it may just, that might convert me because I don't mind doing grafting stitches at all. So anyway, that will be the pair I'll be working on for my 30 minutes of sock knitting this week. And I try to, when I'm doing that, if I'm ending it on something that's going to maybe stop me from easily picking it up, sometimes I'll do a little bit longer. Like today, I finished off the cuff and I went ahead and picked up the stitches for the toe so that next time I sit down, I could just start on the toe, just to kind of help expedite that a little bit. So, all right, we'll move into garment knitting now. It's my Knit Happens mug. First one, this is the Wintering. This is a pattern by Alicia Plummer. I am knitting it with Cestari sheep and wool traditional collection in natural light gray. I love this yarn. If you've been watching, you know I have a jumper in blackberry color of that same yarn that I love. And so this was sort of to have another jumper in that same, that I could just throw on all the time with everything. My antler, side note, funny story. So it's snowing, right? I'm texting with my good friend June, who often we correspond on knitterly things and others. And she reminded me, and it was maybe about 7 o'clock the night we started really getting the heavy snow, and that we were to, snow wash some of my jumpers, which I'd almost forgotten. And what is the opportunity for a Eastern North Carolina knitter to snow wash their garments? So I jumped up and grabbed a couple and threw them out on the front porch because the snow was coming in every which way. So here's a couple of shots of them. My husband was like, "You are so weird." Anyway, but I put them out. I flipped them over after like 30, 40 minutes, put them out again, and then shook them off really good and let them dry. And then I have my antler one that's the precursor to this, if you will, the antler pullover by Handknits. And yesterday when we were shoveling the driveway, I threw it out in the yard, covered it up with snow, let it go for, I don't know, an hour and a half or so, and then shook it out so it's in there drying. And they don't get super wet, so it like my other two were dry the next morning, no problem. Anyway, side story. There's a whole thing with the snow and the, how many people have a snow shovel in North Carolina? We did because we used to live in Virginia, but anyway, it is really, really pretty. I don't, not sure how good my outdoor shots are, but if they're decent, I'll put a couple. Anyway, back to the knitting. So this is the Wintering by Alicia Plummer, and I have finished the body. This has a neat kind of rolled edge neckline and hem. And I have completed a part of one sleeve. And what I did here, so this is, and this will be important later, knit with, you do a short row sleeve cap, and then you're knitting with a series of decreases. So I finished, there's 2 decrease rates. So I finished the first decrease rate, and I have a little bit of yarn that I've stuck inside here. And I want to get the other sleeve caught up to the same so that I can kind of see how it really hangs, and maybe even do a mid-block and then finish off the sleeves. I don't mind my sleeves being too long. But this is a jumper that I kind of would wear all the time, so having it be a good length is probably good. It is a little bit long, and I don't think I'm in a good place to stand up, but maybe I'll send a picture. It's a little bit longer than I like. I think I knit it to the pattern dimensions. And let me see if I stand up, but you won't be able to see. It's really just past my hip bone, which is a little bit longer for me. So not quite tunic, but it does kind of cover my bum if I wanted to run out in leggings, which is not typical, but does happen, would be nice. So I decided it was fine to leave it. And as my husband reminded me, you're a knitter, you can always shorten it later. So better too long than too short, probably, right? So anyway, so I will get the other sleeve cut up. I have been dying to get back to this, but have really been trying to make progress on the next whip I'll show you. So I've kind of made myself put that one to the side, but I am far enough along today that I will probably go ahead and pick up that other sleeve, which I will talk about in relation to this project. So this project has gotten so big now I had to put it into a bigger bag. I should have said, this is a daisy sed bag that I got from Dances with Wool in Richmond, Virginia, which used to be my local yarn store, and still, when I'm up there, frequent. This obviously came from the Woolly Thistle, I think with, I think it came with some project, or no, I might have bought it separately, I'm not sure. I'm knitting, this next project is the Vogue 1969 Classic V-neck, I think is what it is called. It was actually, I've been calling it the 1961 Classic V-neck because it was in the 1961 Spring-Summer edition of Vogue Knitting. Several episodes back, I talked about wanting to do a cable jumper for my dad, and he really wanted a V-neck. And it is surprising how few men's V-neck patterns are out there, which actually reminds me that Brett, I'm not remembering his last name, but I will pop in a photo here, did release a men's V-neck pattern like in the last week or so. So just a good, it looks really, really nice. It's not cabled, but you could certainly adapt that if you wanted to, but it looks like a nice pattern. Anyway, I digress. And though I wanted to use, I had more Cestari yarn. I promise, not sponsored, just a fan. This is just the natural, this is 3-ply DK, so slightly different composition, and it's merino, so different composition than the, I think their other is maybe Targhee Rambouillet blend. But I bought this, I don't know, 2023 maybe. They had cones. These are 3-pound cones, and I've got its buddy in here. See if I can get it out. For like $40 because they said it had a little bit too much VM. Here's its buddy. And I mean, I could not resist, and I have not found it difficult to knit. It has a little bit of VM. They were sheep, out doing their sheepy lives, so it falls out when you knit with it. It's beautiful. So here's where I'm at. So it was knit to 16 inches to start the decreases for the armhole. So what I did is, the pattern is knit flat. It's an older pattern. I knit it in the round, reducing 1 stitch on the purl edges. And I did knit the first skein, or not the first skein, the first pattern repeat, and then block it. So that's what you see there, just to check my gauge, which I had done actual. Sorry, I keep bending down. Actual gauge swatches, I actually did. And I really just liked the fabric of this, but I also wanted to use it. I also, I think Briggs & Little was the other yarn that I swatched with. Anyway, so I'm in the middle of the sleeve or arm side rather, I guess, decreases here. So obviously I had to split front and back, and that is why I've joined that second cone of yarn. This yarn splices, like all good woolly yarn, spit splices so easily that it wouldn't be a problem, but it's nice to have the cone, and I just don't have any ends unless I make them. So that's super nice. So I have to, I mean, the front and back are essentially identical up to a certain point. So this, let's see, this is the front. And then this is where I split for the sleeve. So when I get to 4 inches here, I will then put the front on hold and then finish the back. You finish that with just a little bit of shoulder shaping. Then in the front, I'll add the V-neck, and then you do, I think, a 3-needle bind off, and then I'll have the 2 arm sides. So then the pattern calls for the sleeves to be knit flat, cuff up, and then seamed in. Because I've got this already in the round, I'm a little bit hesitant about fitting that seaming in. So, which brings me back to the wintering pattern with I've done another sweater, I think the Crumpet cardigan also used a short row sleeve cap. Actually, I think the Lusk tee may have as well by Rebecca Clow. So it just occurred to me that I should be able to go in and pick up and knit that sleeve cap using a similar proportion to those that I've got, and then center my pattern and then knit the sleeve shoulder down. I think that will work, and I think if it doesn't work, I've not spent a whole lot of time picking up stitches and doing the sleeve cap. If I realize that, whereas the other way I will have knit 2 giant sleeves, and then like, oh, and my seaming, by the way, is really not good. If you have suggestions and or tutorials on how to really do a good job of seaming, I've watched some videos, I do a little bit with my machine knit stuff, but I'm not good at it. So it's not my go-to. Something I need to work on, but I think this will be better, and also I'll be able to really ensure a good fit if I go from the arm side down. So that's what I'm planning. Looks like I'm like 2 more inches to go before I'll put that front on hold. So, I'm still a ways off, but it's getting there. It's very satisfying when you can fold up a project, isn't it? I think so. So that is the 1961 Vogue Classic V-neck. And then last thing I'm going to show is a whip. I haven't worked on it in quite a while. It's actually been hibernating. Is the Richmond Hill Pullover. And this is a pattern by Mary Pranica for Blue Sky Fibers. And here's where I'm at. And the reason I stopped on this, and if you have been watching for a while, you've heard me talk about it, and I talked about it in my year-end video, is I just was not happy with the way the arms were fitting on me. And actually, when I put it back on, the whole sweater just is more snug than I think is flattering. Anyway, so my dear daughter-in-law tried it on, and it is absolutely gorgeous on her. So we measured for what I need to finish off the sleeves, and I'm so close. So I'm hoping before the next podcast, I hope this one is finished, and then she's able to make use of it. I am not unhappy in the slightest to have it be going to, I'm like, for me it was a process knit. I was traveling. I thought it was a really interesting knit for being able to have color work when I had time to sit and just be at a cafe or whatever and enjoy the color work. And if I needed just social knitting, I had the body to work on. So it was perfect knit for that. It is just not accentuating a flattering part of me. So I'm happy for it to move on. It looks great on her. And I will be glad to get that one off of my lingering hibernating knits. So that was the Richmond Hill pullover. Hopefully we'll see more of that next time. And then last, I just have a quick acquisition. This really should have been these Cestari yarn. I didn't even think about that. Cestari had some yarns on sale, and so I picked up their Ashlawn collection, which is 75% cotton and 25% wool. Starting the fiber mill, and obviously being a southern knitter, I have no problem wearing wool a good part of the year, but going a little further south, highly conscious of both for myself and hopefully for customers whose wool I would be processing. I'm really wanting to explore wool blends. I don't think I'll ever get away from wool because I think it just adds so much great property, but I experimented last summer and there was a series of videos I did. I did some wool bamboo, which I adore and definitely want to work with in the mill. But I've not done a lot with cotton. I did some wool linen, wool linen viscose, but I want to explore a little bit more with the cotton. This is a really interesting, I think it's Virginia cotton and U.S. wool. So I picked up. They had a really good pricing. I think it was $10 a skein, which was quite good. And how much is in this? 100 grams, 250 yards. So I think and I picked up in the colorway Lilac Heather. I picked up 7 skeins thinking I would do something like AKA Nora Knits did the oh gosh, I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's the Kuta Vakika pattern. It's like C something. Oh, I'm not going to remember. I'll put it here. She did that in a cotton yarn. Something like that maybe, where it's a little lacy, a little breezy, but like, the air conditioning just is so intolerable to me most of the summer. So something like that I could kind of pick up and throw up. So I got 7 skeins to do something a little bit longer. And then I got I think 5 skeins each of green heather and mystical. To do like t-shirts with. So should have a really good opportunity to sample these yarns. So that is my acquisition, or stash acquisition. And I think that is all. Just quick farm mill update. Pole building is under construction, very exciting. So here's a couple with the poles up. Power company is staked out, so they're ready to come in. We will be camping more on the property coming up while we're getting construction rolling, and equipment's all set to hopefully get here. And yeah, so tentative schedule, a delivery and training and stuff should be early April. And I hope that to be able to take fiber in for processing probably in the June timeframe. So I'll be working on the website, get that rolling, and hopefully we'll have some fall festival locations that we could do fiber pickup if that is of interest to folks. So anybody that's interested in getting on the mailing list for that can go ahead and email me at the podcast email, and then as we get the website up, I'll provide that information for anybody who wants to sign up for kind of vlog newsletter, and I'll just keep updating a little bit on the channel as we go forward. So I'd love to hear what you all are working on. If you're in, I guess, any part of the, actually good part of the U.S. got snow this week. The south, the north, the central area, it's been crazy. Anyway, I hope you're safe and warm if you're in one of the colder climates. And if for my, I have a good number of Australian watchers and folks in other climates and the southern hemisphere. So hopefully you're enjoying your summer. I'm certainly enjoying several of you that I follow have been posting beautiful summer knits and beautiful gardens and flowers. So I love seeing that. And I do try to remember on the podcast that there are two seasons always going on. So appreciate you bearing with. Hopefully it's a little winter inspiration as you all get ready to go into your winter, and you're certainly inspiring us as we get ready to think about spring knits in a few months. So anyway, with that, I will close for now. I wish you happy knitting, spinning, dyeing, and weaving. Bye, y'all.